The Last of Us has just released the 4th episode of Season 2, and I feel like this was definitely a stronger installment than last week. With Ellie and Dina continuing their hunt for Abby and the other members of Wolf that took part in killing Joel, we saw them ultimately lay all of their cards on the table to each other after Dina was confronted with one of the hardest things that she'd ever have to potentially do in killing Ellie. Plus, as well as that, we got more of an insight into the Seraphites and also Isaac Dixon, a man who was a sergeant at Fedra but didn't believe the very thing that he was fighting for. With some powerful scenes such as the large-scale infected storming the railway station, but also the more intimate, beautiful one of Ellie simply picking up a guitar and playing a song, something that felt so pure and raw amongst all of the chaos. Let's dive into this episode and break down all that there was to take away from it. Here is The Last of Us Season 2 Episode 4 Ending Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. Isaac Dixon and the Seraphites. Getting a glimpse into Isaac Dixon for the first time was something that most definitely wasn't a disappointment. We saw him in 2 different forms. The first was in 2018, where he was a sergeant for Fedra and shared a different mindset to the men that he was leading, sympathizing with the civilians that were being hard done by the organization, taking a distaste for stories that were being told and also ultimately killing his own men. What was telling of the character though was that he chose to save one of them because it seemed like this one was new to the team and hadn't had his mind fully corrupted yet. As this individual asked, why do you call them voters when a story was being told about civilians, because he didn't know that it was a term that was used to mock them because their right to vote was taken away. This soldier's mind hadn't had the poison of Fedra injected within it yet, so he didn't feel it was right to kill him. In the opening scene as well, we also saw that Fedra were fearful of Wolf, as they believed that the people that stopped the van were part of the group. So with Isaac killing Fedra and joining forces with Wolf, it showed that he was siding with the enemy, but the enemy that felt like it was more for the people than Fedra were. Hannaran said to Isaac, "Welcome to the fight," which I think is alluding to 2 different things. The first is just the constant battle that Wolf has with Fedra. As we saw when Ellie was walking through Seattle, there were many people in Fedra uniforms that had been killed. But I also think it's the battle with the Seraphites, or Scars as they're referred to by Wolf due to the Glasgow smiles on the side of their faces. I'm presuming this is a derogatory term though, as the Seraphite corrected Isaac when he was called that. When it cut to 11 years later, we saw that Isaac was holding a Seraphite prisoner in the kitchen. This was a scene that was extremely powerful. The way that this scene was constructed, with Isaac reminiscing about his time before the outbreak occurred, where he always dreamed of getting the top of the range pans with lid because he enjoyed cooking but couldn't afford it. But now having them in front of him and using them not for the expensive purpose that they were designed for, but as a method of torture. It was a scene which showed how the cordyceps outbreak changed people and the direction that their lives were going in ways that they couldn't have ever possibly imagined. What was in front of him was once a dream, and now it meant nothing. The migration of talking about the pans for the benefits of cooking to then talking about how copper heats up quicker and the steel stops the handle from getting hot as he approached a Seraphite that was chained up was such a haunting image. And if it hadn't have been included in the trailer, it would have hit so hard. This Seraphite was broken, battered, bruised and bloody, and had been tortured in some of the most inhumane ways. Even though the Seraphite didn't reveal any information about the next attack that they were planning on Wolf, which is the entire reason as to why he was being tortured, that and the fact that he put an arrow through a young boy, we learned a lot about them. The phrase, "she watches over us," was spoken a lot by him in what was his time of need. Here he's referring to the Prophet, which was also mentioned by the Seraphites in the previous episode when they were walking through the forest. The Prophet is this very person that had this vision which ultimately led her to live the way that they all do now, off of the land and before the time of modern technology, as she felt the world was being punished for all of the wrongdoings that had been done. With the Seraphite not revealing any information, we saw him put out his hand and accepted the burns that were coming his way. This was a scene that held such power. No words were needed to see the devotion that he had and the commitment that he had to the religion. He was prepared to die for the Prophet just like the Prophet did for the cause, also at the hands of Isaac Dixon. So the willingness to be tortured instead of giving up information showed that they're a tough nut to crack. Hence why Isaac just killed him, because he knew that he wasn't going to break him. There was a bit of back and forth about a truce being broken and both sides killing people on the other side in response to an initial action. This is most likely referring to the geographical war that has been present between Wolf and the Seraphites for many years, even when the Prophet was around. The Seraphites and Wolf staked claim to different parts of Seattle, and there was once a truce that was created which allowed the both of them to live semi-harmoniously, as long as they stuck to their areas. However, that wasn't the case. The Seraphites want to recruit more into the religion, and that's something that does end up happening because the members continue to grow. With Wolf getting smaller and the Seraphites getting stronger because more people end up joining the religion. It will be interesting to see a battle commencing in some capacity. The methods of warfare are completely different, so the Seraphites are definitely playing the long game. With the way that the Wolf members were killed by the Seraphites when Ellie and Dina walked into the room, seeing them up high with their innards basically becoming their outards, it showed a real inhumane approach that they had within them, a real sense of brutality. Isaac has clearly become numb to the pain, suffering, and approach that he has on killing Seraphites, as we saw by the Wolf member that was waiting outside of the door that was shocked at what he heard. So I'm hoping we get a bit more insight into the character as the episodes develop. Dina and Ellie. These two were at the helm of the episode this week, and we saw them moving through Seattle with the intention of finding Abby and the other members of Wolf that were responsible for killing Joel. For the most part, this was all about their relationship building. Moments such as Ellie playing a song and Dina just being in awe of what she was watching was a real special moment. I'm not gonna lie, I thought this was quite a powerful scene. It's obviously an iconic moment in the game, but seeing an untouched guitar that had been protected for all of those years, playing music, something which is so beautiful and so raw, in a building that had instruments destroyed, overgrown foliage plaguing it, and a city that had been obliterated, it was a contrast that just caused the emotions to come to the forefront and you could escape reality, the very thing that music was designed to do. Take into consideration that Joel was the person that taught her how to play guitar, and the only reason that she's there is because she was trying to avenge him. It was just so strong. As Ellie and Dina were looking for Wolf, they ended up being spotted by Wolf members that were investigating the death of the ones that were left in the room on display by the Seraphites, and as the hunt was taking place, the infected were triggered. This was what led Ellie to put her arm out in front of the infected and take a bite for Dina, showing one, just how much she loved her, but also secondly, that she was willing to reveal the truth to her that she was immune. Information which was the biggest secret that she held, and once revealed, it meant that there was truly no hiding who they were to each other. This is why we ultimately went on to see Dina reveal to Ellie that she was carrying Jesse's child, and it connected back to what she was looking at during the first scene in the episode after the opening title sequence. They were both exposing themselves for who they truly were, laying all their cards down on the table and showing that they trusted each other with the most important information that they held. This was something that also made Ellie change her judgment on wanting Dina to move forward with the plan, because she had a future that was laid out there for her. However, with Dina choosing to go with Ellie, they're both now in it together. My review of the episode. I thought this was a good episode of the show. Like I said at the start, I feel it was definitely better than last week's episode. I thought there was good progression with the characters, a great introduction to Isaac Dixon, and we also got to see more of the Seraphites' mindset and just how dangerous their devotion could be, so it was interesting to watch. The scene in the kitchen was one that I thought was just so powerful. It was haunting, the performance was so strong, and seeing the contrasting character in Isaac from the opening scene of the episode to this moment, it showed just how hard the past 11 years had been for him. I'm glad we got a scene with the infected again, and this one was just as claustrophobic as the last one that we had in episode 2. All of them being on the train and them just constantly breaking down the windows and doors and being so close added great tension, and I was on the edge of my seat. The one that got me the most though was when they were trying to go through the ticket barrier and it just wasn't shifting. I felt that sense of panic and fear, and it made you think about what you would do if you were in that situation. The infected's desire to just spread no matter what happens is always such a menacing sight to see, especially when they're just ramming into fences and doors and taking whatever comes their way. I would say that even though Joel's death was a moment that was incredible in the show, I am definitely missing the character. Ellie and Dina are doing a good job at carrying the show, and the world is now expanding and getting larger. But Pedro Pascal as Joel was just genuinely perfect. I know it's part of the story and it wouldn't have gone any differently, but his absence is definitely feeling missed. Honestly, I can't believe we've only got 3 episodes left in the season. It's absolutely flying by. I just hope that the final 3 episodes continue on in the quality that we've had over the past few weeks and it manages to go out with a bang. So, there you have it, The Last of Us Season 2 Episode 4 Ending Explained. If you want to see every episode in The Last of Us Season 2 being broken down, then check the playlist below, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future videos. What did you think of this episode? Share your thoughts in the comments. As always, thanks for tuning into the video and I'll see you in the next one.